welcome back to the workshop. Got a neat project for you today. When I bought this property about 6 or 7 years ago, there was an old farmhouse on it that was built in 1868. When I initially bought it, the plan was to gut the place and completely redo it because it was in pretty bad shape. As I dug into it and tore it apart, it really wasn't worth it, so I ended up tearing the place down. But one of the things I wanted to do was save as much of that good old material from the place as I could. And I've used it in stuff all over my new house, built a whole bunch of furniture using that old wood. But one of the things that I saved was a whole big pile of the old style plaster lathing that they used to use. And I don't know why this popped into my head, but I just thought of using that as stripes for flags. And so I had a pile of this bundled up and stored in my garage for, like I said, 4, 5, 6 years. And over the holidays, I finally got around to digging into that project and building some flags out of it. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So starting off here, I am cutting the frame pieces. I built the frame out of 1x2 pine, just regular pine, nothing too fancy or expensive. And you'll see the cut list there. The overall flag dimension is 37 by about 20. It's probably closer to 19 3/4. But I sized the flag based off of the width of the plaster lathing. There's lots of calculators online. You could pick one specific dimension, type that in there, and it'll spit out all the remainder of the dimensions that are required to make a regulation flag. So the next step is cutting the actual plaster lathing for the full length stripes. They're 37 inches. And then I think the shorter ones, the 7 that go up next to the field of stars, are 22 1/4. But again, if you're going to build something like this, make sure you're taking a look at one of the flag calculators and making sure you get the right proportions. Next step is screwing this thing together, and I just used regular drywall screws. I didn't put on the cut list those triangular brackets. Those are just to make sure everything is square. Next step is getting a good coat of white primer paint onto this frame. Probably not absolutely necessary, and I definitely went a little bit overkill, but I wanted to make them look nice. Next was a part of this flag design that really makes it cool, really makes it awesome, but it does take the longest amount of time. So tracing these stars, you're going to see me trace all 50 stars here. And again, I sized that star based off of the flag calculator. And like I said, I built some of these in the past, so I had that star template, and I just use that same one to trace all the stars moving forward. Alright, after you trace, the next thing to do is cut them out. I didn't include cutting out all 50 stars on the video. I will say it probably took between 50 minutes and an hour to cut out 50 stars. I tried to time it a little bit. So the stars are by far the most time-consuming part of this process. Next, we're painting all the red stripes. Now it's time to assemble the flag, so lay everything out as closely as we can. Now all these lathing pieces aren't exactly the same width, so you have to mess with it a little bit, tweak it a little bit, space them a little bit. Not all of them fit together as nicely and perfectly as this one did. And then I'm using a ribbed nail for this. It just holds something like that so much better, and you're not getting the nails backing out like you would if you're using finished nails or something like that. And absolutely pre-drilling through the lathing to make sure I'm not splitting them when I'm driving the nails. Next is cutting out the lathing for the field of stars. And this you kind of just have to do each flag individually. Like I mentioned, these the lathing isn't exactly the same width every time, so you have to mark it and cut each piece individually. Now painting up those field pieces with the blue. And assembling the blue field pieces onto the flag. It's the same process I use for the stripes. Put them in place and then pre-drill each one of the nail holes and put them into place. I like to get them into position, nail in that top outside corner piece that kind of locks everything into place, and then I can make minor adjustments off that to get them all where they need to be. And now to the rewarding part of putting the stars in place. When you use the flag calculator, it will give you the spacing of the stars, but that's hard to keep track of, so I usually just lay them out. I know there's supposed to be 5 rows of 6 and then 4 rows in between them of the 5, and then I space them as close as I can, then look above and make sure the diagonals are straight, and that gets them close enough to where they need to be. And then when it comes to gluing them in place, I have tried to use liquid nail or some other construction adhesive for this in the past and haven't had luck with that sticking, oddly enough. So I'm just gluing these on here with wood glue, and that's worked a lot better than the liquid nail has in the past. So the last thing I want to talk about here is cost and how long it took to make these. Adding up all of the materials, it took me about $15 worth of materials, I would guess. Most of that is the frame lumber was about $8, a couple bucks for the nails that I used. I did have screws already, I had paint already. I budgeted about $5 per flag to cover that stuff. So overall, I'd say the total cost I have into them is $15. One thing about making all these videos, I have a good idea about how long all of this took to do, and it adds up to about 2 hours and 15 minutes per flag. So currently I'm going to be selling these for 75 bucks. That's the price that most of these are going to family and friends, so I'm okay with that. I don't want to go too crazy expensive for them. If you take the $15 cost away from the $75 price, you're looking at $60 per flag. Looking at the time, you're just over $26 an hour. Sounds good, and for me, I'm doing this in my spare time. It's not like I'm doing this for a living, so I'm more than okay with that. But if I was doing this for a business, that probably isn't enough, especially if I had to have insurance or pay other facilities or stuff like that. I'm just doing this in my home workshop. Think about what stuff costs to make and the effort that goes into it. A lot of us are very used to going to Walmart or Hobby Lobby or wherever and buying decor like this that came out of China, and it's cheap, and it's cheap for a reason, because you're not paying the people that actually do the work. So think about that. Be a little bit more intentional about the stuff that you buy. Make sure you're supporting the people that you want to support. Fun project. I really love using the old materials and seeing them go to use. If you like seeing content like this, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.